When we begin to please ourselves, then we become self-sufficient, and then it goes down a step further, and we become self-deceived. I'm okay. I'm okay. But here's the final step, and this is where people destroy their lives. You become, after all, self-indulgent. And you give yourself to whatever it is that you sense back there someplace that was more important to God. You gave yourself to it, and ultimately it will destroy your Christian life. I'm not dealing with the issue here of losing your salvation. I'm talking about your testimony. I'm talking about your effectiveness for God. I'm talking about the desperate need in the house of God and amongst the people of God and the church locally and across this nation, that indeed we wake up to the fact that we are in desperate need of God to meet His people again. Now, having said that and given us somewhat of a sense of the book, here's the message. It is the people of God who can truly shape a nation. There are many that look at great leaders and powerful governments to shape a nation, but once a nation is headed down, leaders and governments will not restore that nation once it's on a downward slide, no matter what they say, no matter what the promises are. While leaders and governments can influence a nation, there is no group of people who can determine the coming years of a nation like God's people. As goes the people of God, so goes the nation. As goes the people of God, so goes the redemption of the world. God is therefore, listen carefully, God is therefore working mightily amongst His own. The fact is, we are either closer to revival on the one hand or judgment on the other than we've ever been before, and there is no alternative to those two. It's an either or. It can never be a both and. Either God's people return to God with all their heart, or God will, and in fact God is, judging us right now. And He's not only judging the nation that we're a part of, that's fearful enough, but He's judging the church that is in that nation. And don't ever believe that God will not judge His church, for He will and He is, even to this day. I heard a preacher a number of years ago, somebody asked the question, prove that the church is under the judgment of God. He said, that doesn't take but a second. He said, look at the prayer meeting. Enough said. Enough said. We do not have to guess, friends, how that judgment will look or how thorough it will be. The Bible shows us very clearly. Listen. When God judged Israel, the northern kingdom, He completely wiped them out. When God judged Judah, the southern kingdom, He destroyed Jerusalem and the temple and put the people in bondage for 70 years. When God also took the people of Jesus' day and He scattered them so thoroughly that they did not get back together for nearly 2,000 years to this point. If you look at the history of God's dealing with His own people, listen and look. It ought to cause you and me to tremble, but we're not. You want to know why we're not? Because we have lost the fear of our God. Now, before I continue, let me make sure that we understand this matter of the fear of God. What is it? Because I'm finding that there are a lot of people that do not understand it at all. First of all, let me begin by making this statement. The fear of God is a grace. How do I know that? Because God commands you and me to fear him. Therefore, it's got to be grace. And it is a grace. Now, here's what the fear of God looks at, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time here, but just to get us understanding. First of all, look up here. It is not this. It is not running and hiding. It is not trying to get away from God. That's not the fear of God. Simply defined, it looks like this. 3 parts. Number 1, it is the fear of breaking harmony with God. It is the fear of breaking harmony with God. It could be compared to the healthy relationship that a child has in a crowded place that keeps him from letting go of his mom's hand. It is not necessarily the consequences of letting go that he fears, but it is the separation from the one that he loves and with whom he is safe and secure. The second aspect, the fear of the Lord is living in an awesome recognition for God, for who he is. The omnipotent, almighty creator of the universe, not only Savior, but judge of all men, who shakes earth and heaven, and who is a consuming fire. The fear of the Lord, thirdly, is the fear of the consequences of rebelling against him. For the Lord shall judge his people, Hebrews 10:30, and 31 says, it is a fearful thing to fall into the hands of a living God. The fear of the Lord is not rooted in a person's emotions. The fear of the Lord is rooted in the will. The indication of the fear of the Lord in your heart is your obedience to his word and to his commanded way of living. God's fear or godly fear is rooted in revealed heart knowledge that motivates our will to choose to follow God. And it has little or nothing to do with any emotional feeling at all. In other words, to put it in different terms, when God speaks to my heart through the Word, because of the fear of God in me, my tendency is not to run away or disregard. My tendency is to draw nigh unto God. Now, I want to paint you a picture of this whole process in the remainder of this message. It is the loss of the fear of God that characterizes God's people in America today. Now, I want to begin tonight by defining revival. In 1987, there was a conference on prayer and spiritual awakening in North Carolina. The speaker was Dr. J. Edwin Orr. The last message that Dr. Orr ever preached was this message. The title was this: Revival is like